Okay, let's put it this way.
Okay.
It's you against 1,000 bad guys. 1,000 bad guys have all the ammunition in the world, don't have any training, and you've got 990 bullets. And you're the best trained guy in the world. Somebody's going to get through that. Right? So it's all about mass in the end. And that's what we're talking about here with China. It doesn't matter. The technology doesn't matter if we're Winchester and they've still got weapons. And that's what we're talking about. Like, we can have the best technology in the world. We can have 1,000-to-1 kill ratio, but it's that 1,001 that's going to kill us. And that's the problem we face. It's just a pure numbers game, right? Nobody would say, I'm going to send an ODA team against a battalion. Right? That would be crazy.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking here. It's just the numbers are overwhelming. Ships, planes, bombs, rockets, missiles, just it is.
Do they have
staggering.
more of everything than we have?
Oh my gosh, so much more. And you think about what we've been doing recently. We spent most of our munitions to Middle East and Ukraine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, they have so many more things. And so it doesn't matter how good you are if somebody has just overwhelming amounts of people and weapons, and that's what the Chinese have. And they're willing to spend them.
Makes a lot of sense. Moving on, I wanted to get into, I mean, China they seem a lot more strategic than we are. And some of the ways that I've found that they seem to be taking the U.S., I want to just dive into some of those. Let's start with the cartels and the fentanyl crisis. They definitely seem to be behind the fentanyl crisis. They're sending in the chemicals. They're sending in chemists to train the cartels how to make the world's most deadliest fentanyl. They're moving on to the next drug. Fentanyl took heroin. Now they're developing this drug. I believe it's called nitasin. And that's already started pumping through the border. How legitimate is that? Is it as strategic as I make it out to be, or is that just cartels reaching out to China for the chemicals?
I mean, you have to take a step back and say, what did the Chinese study? Who won the Cold War? We did. How do we win the Cold War? It's really about unleashing the power of our society. And so what the Communist Party wanted to do was figure out how they harness that, right? How to harness individual ambition for their own interests. And so if you can do that, if you can harness individual ambition to a certain set of interests, then you can unleash the creative capabilities of people, but still get the kind of outcome you want. So we don't have a fentanyl problem in China, do we? Because they know the people that are making money at selling these things, the precursors, and helping both the cartels and the triads out of Hong Kong. They can make all the money they want. They just can't allow any of it to seep into China, or they'll end up dead. The Communist Party will kill them, and so they know that. So the triads, the cartels, and the Chinese, these people that are involved in it make money. And they have factories in China, and they create factories, in Latin America and elsewhere, and move the drugs. And they move it not just in the United States, all over the world. And it's a profit-making endeavor. Now, is Xi Jinping personally, sitting back and managing this? No. They recognize that if you can narrowly, enable your people to get rich, but get rich in ways that support your interests, then you've unleashed the American model in a way, right? And so that's what they do. And so there's all kinds of things that you can get rich at in China that are absolutely abhorrent and illegal here.
Wow. What about all the farmland within the U.S. being bought by China or Chinese companies? Is that?
Well, I think, there are multiple likely reasons for that. One is just if you have a lot of money in China and you want to have an escape route, transferring that money into some kind of real asset is very important. You don't want to keep it all liquid because that can be seized. So getting some kind of real property somewhere outside of China can be a way that you provide for resources if you have to escape. So a lot of the Communist Party do that, right? Because you can be in good favor at one time, and then, very quickly, like we saw with Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, you can be out of favor, and then you have nothing. And so a lot of it, I believe, is getting assets outside of the country for themselves and their family members. Another is, and the Communist Party, the way that they look at what's called the Huaqiao, or the expatriates that are outside the country, they look at them as a resource, just like a citizen lives within China. And so there may also be an interest, for instance, to build facilities within that are in strategic locations. There might be an interest to be a part of the food supply, to provide security. So there's a lot of things where your individual interests can align with the Chinese Communist Party interests, and that's why, property can be purchased. It could also be for influence. And, as I was telling you, we had Faraday Futures, which was an EV company that was building a factory outside in Nellis Air Force Base. This was when I was still in uniform, where the mayor of Las Vegas comes to the wing commander at Nellis and says, hey, please don't say anything about this factory because I want to have jobs for Las Vegas citizens. So it can be a way to also influence, local politicians, state politicians, federal politicians that about how things that you want them to do. I'm going to go build something in your district so that I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Now, the asks are not going to be, deliberate, like, obvious, support us if we invade Taiwan. It's going to be more along the lines, these are our interests, and you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. In the case of the Faraday Futures, okay, now the Chinese Communist Party has built this advanced manufacturing facility right after one of our most strategic air bases in the United States, where you can start doing all kinds of intelligence collection and whatever. It can be a base for that. And so there's no like one reason. I think people want one reason. There's no one reason. There's a multitude of reasons that come through the relationships that are created by investing in real assets or in companies here in the United States. And you may not even understand what all those opportunities and benefits may be. All you know is you've just created a tie. You've created a relationship that can be exploited at some time in the future. I mean, this is a well-known intelligence technique, right? Gain an asset, cultivate that asset. You may not know where that's going to go. You may be like somebody that maybe has an opportunity to rise to some level of prominence within a society, but you've got them. You've got a relationship, and over time you figure out how you're going to exploit that, and that's what they're so good at.